Okay, one technique that really isn't very common for blues, but something I have to use an awful lot are sweeps. Now, sweeps, this is something that's more associated with heavy metal or fusion the way Frank Gambale plays it. Frank Gambale just took this concept. It's been around for a while, but he took it just to a whole nother level. And but it's the same sort of thing as the last thing we were talking about. I usually don't do a whole solo of sweeps because the lame way that I do them is might get kind of boring, but they can be really effective if they're used right. So let's go to the key of A for this. The first one I want to show you is it's kind of a reverse sweep that B.B. King uses all the time. So we're in A here, and he makes this little partial six chord. So we have A, C sharp, F sharp, and A on top. So the way he'll use it is like this: 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's just. So the idea is just to run your pick across these fingers, across these strings and frets. And then when you get to the highest note, take the other fingers off. Okay, now you can play in various places. So this is like an A minor chord. You can use it even up here on the 10th fret. And that'll work against the A chord too. And if you're real careful, you can hit the flat 5, which would be E flat on top. And you can use it up here for the G on top. Okay, so this is just A, C sharp, E, and G. Okay, so what I do with this, now this, when you do the sweep, it's an upstroke. And the same thing, when you get to that last note, make sure your fingers are off. Okay, okay, and you don't want to rush through this too fast. Then you won't be able to hear the notes. But what I do with these invariably is my first note here is going to be G. So what I do is I start with an F sharp. I hit a downstroke, slide it up, and then I do the reverse sweep here. Okay, so I can see I'm just using the chord here. Now there's a couple of other ones that work really well, like this one. This is a C major 7 chord. Now if you play this against A bass, what it's going to be, it's going to sound like an A minor 9th chord. Okay, but what we will do to resolve this into major is just, I have my C major 7 chord here. I start like the other one. I start a half step below with the downstroke. Then I do the reverse sweep. Oops, that wasn't too good. Neither was that. Okay, and then, see, this note is C. When I get to this C, I slide it up a half step, which will put it C sharp. C sharp is the 3rd degree of the A7 chord, so it's going to fit right in with the chord. Oops. Okay, so this one, One thing I like after I do this inflection is put this finger here on F sharp and move this up a half step, and that gives me the tritone of A. That's going to fit real pretty right into the chord. Okay, so that's one way you can do that. Another thing that works real good is a D major 7 chord. But this time you got to do the resolution a half step down. This note will be D, and this should come down to C sharp. Okay, so in context, like okay, so this one, now this is something that you hear piano players play quite a bit. Usually in this kind of context, like going down from the 5. Okay, so that works real well. Now, I got a real elaborate version of that one. Now this one, I kind of stole this from a Ray Charles record. Ray Charles plays a lot of these kind of arpeggios that if you play them on guitar, they only come out and can only do them as sweeps. So this one's a little difficult, so you got to watch real good. Now what I do is I sustain with my 4th finger up here on the 17th fret. Boy, I get dizzy counting that high. Anyway, this is on the A note up here. Now what I do is I start with a C note here, which is the 2nd string 13th fret, and I slide that up. Then I play the D note, which is a half step higher. Let me just play that in context. Okay, so what happens here? A little bit slower. Okay, so what happens is, now we've got to this part already. Now I'm going to have to play the C note and slide it up. But to set it up for the slide, after I play this D, I'm going to have a little bar here on the 13th fret, and I'm going to slide that up a half step, just playing these 2 strings, 1 and 2, like that. But the reason I have this bar is because this sets up the sweep. Yeah. Okay, so basically I'm just sweeping this little bar chord here, which is part of this form of A. And I'm playing D with my 4th finger up here on the 17th fret and resolving it down half a step. Okay, a little bit slower. Okay, so this one is a little hard to play, and it's going to take some practice to get it, but it works real good. Let me play it in the same context that I just played. Okay, that would have been okay, but I hit the D string instead of the A. Okay, so it's got to be played kind of quickly like that. But that's one, it's real slick. I like it a lot, and it's partially because I just love everything that Ray Charles ever did. Now, you can use other chords that are not part of the chord that you're playing. For example, now if you take this B minor 7 and then resolve it with a figure from A, it's going to work real good. Like okay, so I played this B minor 7, but I immediately resolved it to the C sharp here. Okay, and that's going to work real good. There's a lot of chords that will work good. Like this is an E minor 7th. but I'm resolving it here to A. Okay, and that will work. You know, there's a lot of chords that you can use that if you resolve it to the chord that you're playing, it's going to work real good. A good exercise to do these with is, I don't know if you know the harmonized scale. I'm going back to G major here. Now if we take this scale and harmonize it in 7th chords, okay, you can use those chords really well for an exercise. Okay, and these will work really good. Okay, now you can use these things in minor too, but that's, you know, those are pretty easy. Like if we're playing like a minor blues, you know, the C major 7th that we played. It's going to sound very flavorful, but right now we're basically working with the major chords. But so anyway, what I'm doing here, this is a little figure from the major pentatonic, and that works real good, I think. Okay, so those can be very effective. I think it's a good idea if you don't use them a lot, because then it'll sound a little monotonous. But they can be very, very effective, I think, if you use them real subtly.